loved you and left you? Perhaps they chose an animal over you. They might have been a Sagittarius. Is there anything problematic about this sign for you? Maybe you notice them being generally freedom-loving or overly unaffected when they could have been emotional. After all, Sagittarius lives in the kinetic, movement-oriented horse's tail, which is the stalk of nerves and tendons extending out of the lower back into the legs. Of course, we know that every chart is perfect, thank you to Kim Strickland, and we also know that there are positive traits to any sign. This is the remediation channel, however, so here we will focus on problems and remedies for the freedom-loving, optimistic, forward-moving sign of Sagittarius. Share with us in the comments below. Do you have any planets in Sagittarius? What house is Sagittarius on for you? Now, follow along with this video to enhance and uplift your Sagittarius elements. First, let's look into the physical ailments of this sign. The first book I will look into is Medical Astrology by Judith Hill. What does Judith say about the sun in Sagittarius? She says, the vital force is vigorously outward moving. There is much vital energy in both the muscular and nervous systems, creating a rather restless kinetic individual in many cases. These people are spark plugs. Always on the go, natives of this sign burn the candle at both ends and suffer for it in the later years. Like their mascot, the horse, they require sufficient leg exercise and fresh air. This is a healthy sign if the blood pressure is regulated and bodily structures, particularly the spine, hips, and legs, are maintained. First of all, Judith notes that the vital force is vigorous and outward moving, so Sagittarians are quite healthy. Have no fear. Judith does mention a few problems, though, such as sports injuries, horse riding, hunting and driving injuries, spinal issues, sciatica, diseases of the spinal cord and central nervous system, hysteria, grandiosity, ADHD, heated blood, fevers, fire, hip problems, structural misalignments of the spine and hip, insomnia, disordered and depleted systems from too much activity or travel, and mental derangement. As you can see, the sciatic nerve, the muscles of the legs, and the horse's tail, as mentioned, are affected by the sign of Sagittarius. Let's look at a picture of the horse's tail now. It is hard to get these people to sit down and stay in one place for any length of time. They have to get up and go. Of course, for all your medical astrology info, get Judith's book. It is the best in the field. Now, let's look to Cornell's Encyclopedia of Medical Astrology to see what physical ailments he suggests. He says Sagittarius rules the iliac arteries, the buttocks, the coccygeal region of the spine, the hips and thighs, femur. It can bring fractures of the hip and thigh bones. It rules the gluteus muscles. It influences the muscular system generally, the nerves and the sciatic nerve, and it has some rule over the nervous system in general. For Sagittarius diseases and afflictions, he says, the Sagittarius people are usually easily cured of disease because of their confiding, trusting, frank, and open natures, if good and positive suggestions are made. But evil and negative suggestions are also equally powerful with them in health matters. Sagittarius can get into problems driving around so much. Now, let's look into the vertebral bodies and dermatomes as suggested by Cardoso in Astral Somatica. Cardoso attributes Sagittarius to the fire in the lower third, the sciatic nerve, the leg and thigh muscles, L1 through L4, the horse's tail, which is the nerve cluster extending out from the lower back, the gross motor nerves down the leg, and the muscles of the leg. Mobility of the whole form, traveling, walking, running, and riding. Moving fire from the bottom, heated up legs, wanting to move forward with the legs, wanting to kick and walk forward. Here is an image of the dermatomes affected by Sagittarius. See them running down the legs? You can see how they innervate all of the organs listed above. This is where the maladies of these body systems come from, chi coursing through the dermatomes of the Sagittarius person. as well as down the horse's tail and through the legs. If you want to consult about the exact build of your chart and dermatomes, I'm happy to look at your chart through the lens of astrology. Contact me anytime for an individualized reading. One thing we often see is a strong Jupiter in Sagittarius causing certain problems by being so buoyant and expansive. People always think a strong Jupiter is a good thing, when what this literally means is that the planet can produce what Jupiter promises: expansion, being too much, being mega, choosing freedom and newness when the person could be emotional, choosing constant movement, and more. I once had a girlfriend who was a Sag Sun, Sag Rising. She, of course, chose polyamory, the variety where she had several other partners. She couldn't stop moving on to the new thing. I've also had Sagittarius partners who traveled constantly, lived in 2 towns, and were always coming and going. I have Sagittarius in my 7th house. There's a constant need to entertain the Sagittarius so that they do not need to stray. The tendency can be to fill any boredom with travel and new adventures. Having a blast is a great use of the abundant, optimistic energies of Sagittarius. If you want to see a super Sagittarius chart, look at Terica Klanknecht, the most rockin' drummer in Portland, Oregon. See the Time Rift interview for an adventure with Terica. Disclaimer time. I am not a psychologist, nor do I claim to be one. I'm just talking about what a great amount of energy released through the Sagittarius dermatomes might look like. Also, I don't want you to be alarmed if you have planets in Sagittarius, thinking that you might have any problems. I am merely suggesting that if weirdness is presenting, there might be some remedies to handle an excessive love of freedom, adventuring, and moving on. Jupiter in Sagittarius can produce many awesome traits as well. A love of people, extroversion, leading a crew in all kinds of fun, being posi-core and uplifting, and extreme optimism. A love of joy, beautiful, long, strong legs, and much more. The Sagittarius dermatome goes right down the legs to a skateboard, bicycle, gas pedal in a car, or even a drum pedal. Now, let's look to Vettius Valens to see what he says about Jupiter. Perhaps we can expect some of these traits from the Jupiter in Sagittarius person. The beams of Jupiter inspire us to bear children. They incite desire, love, the formation of alliances. Jupiter leads us into a state of gnosis, which is knowledge gained from direct experience. Jupiter guides us to friendships with wealthy, abundant people. Under Jupiter's influence, we feel as if we have adequate and bountiful provisions. Jupiter contributes to the joy of receiving gifts, love of beautiful fruits, the ability to do the right thing. Jupiter urges us on towards leadership, citizenship, and the desire to lead people in holy places. Jupiter allows us to maintain a middle ground in the midst of judgment. This star inspires faith and trust. Jupiter is associated with events that work out well and boost our confidence. It could bring inheritance. Jupiter action inspires belonging, fellowship, common ground, and the cultivation of fine tastes. In fact, this star imparts the wisdom to stay far away from evil circumstances and wicked people. Jupiter can release us from any constraint that binds us, enmeshing in us an internal sense of freedom. Jupiter encourages us to acquire assets, to own goods and property, to manage family affairs. Jupiter affects the outer thighs and feet, from which we get the ability to run races and contend. The flavor associated with Jupiter is glucose, sweet, delightful, and pleasant. As you can see, having Jupiter in Sagittarius might be an awesome, pleasant thing to have. Now suppose we have a super Sagittarian, and the body is a thrasher. It needs to move around constantly. What are the remedies here? The first remedy is using all the energy in the legs, walking around, skateboarding, bicycling, getting out of the office to walk around, playing with animals, etc. Traveling the world, going on tour with your band. Never let a Sagittarius sit around getting bored. Take them to the dog park. Have them read the local arts and culture mag. Plan some adventures in town. Planning in-town adventures is a way to get the Sagittarius person to stay in town at all. This is a good way to stay optimistic and having a blast. Life is a constant party with Sages. Celebrate life with the Sagittarius. Enjoy raging. Be a party animal yourself. Thrash. Go to rock shows. Take up relationship anarchy. Ask them out on a date, and more. If you really want to change the natural form, which isn't always the best remedy as it can kill the spirit, Teach the Sagittarius person to get attached and act like the moon sign of Cancer, which we will study in the weeks to come. Restrict travel and turn off the party. But remember, the Sagittarius person acts exactly like their chart should. We could also take a symbolic substitution approach. What activities stimulate the legs in horse's tail other than walking around, leaving town, and being polyamorous? In-town adventures. Long walks on the beach with your partner. Gaming. Driving around the main strip. Remember, Sagittarians love cars. They love driving. Make a smash cake and other naughty things. Watch action movies. Soup up your yard to be like a farm. Get chickens. Make a catio. Garden beds, etc. Have you ever had a crazy adventure with a Sagittarius? They're the best at letting loose, doing anything and everything. I love my weekly adventure with my Sagittarius Moon co-host Fern Allen, who has a catio, of course, and 5 animals. Let's move our focus to the personality of the Sagittarius person. There is no sign as exciting, as uplifting, as movement-oriented, as multicultural, and as kooky as this sign. These are the thrashers of the zodiac. Look at this picture from Astrological Body Types by Judith Hill. The Sagittarius picture shows the Sag with her horse, fit for venturing out and riding across the lands. Before we look to the modern texts, let's look again at Vettius Valens, as he lived 2,000 years ago, and that is fun. What is the historical understanding of Sagittarius? Jupiter is at home in the Archer. Sagittarius is masculine, fiery, uplifting, and very vocal. It can bring rain down on the city. This sign is double-bodied. Those born under Sagittarius have 2 forms by nature. They communicate in riddles, keeping certain things obscure, taunting others. Oh, Valens, did a Sagittarius break your heart? They produce few children. Archers leave affairs half-finished, yet are noble and fit for leadership. Sagittarians are good-natured and well-balanced, with large, magnificent souls. They are critical thinkers with powers of discernment, especially in scholarly endeavors. They have a judgmental tendency, are generous, and have contagious enthusiasm. Archers thrive in friendships. They love feelings of camaraderie. In fact, they love to love. In the first part of life, Sagittarians can be poor, acquiring assets and losing them through enemies. They delight in honor, are remarkably full of good energy, and weave a nonsensical web of affairs, at least it seems. Okay, Valens, that's a good mix of good and bad. Alright, well, comment below. Where do you agree with Valens? Where do you disagree? Now, let's move on to the more modern understanding of the personality characteristics of a Sagittarius. What does the A to Z horoscope maker and interpreter have to say? First, let's look at the list of undesirable characteristics and turn these into good things. The first one is boisterousness. Okay, well, Sagittarius are so enthusiastic and so fun. Overconfidence. They are ruled by Jupiter. Remember, luck and confidence bring great gifts here. From a manifestation perspective, confidence is everything. Rashness. Okay, they have the ability to make quick decisions and move on from hard situations. Changeability. Sagittarius are moving fire. They are always up for a new adventure. Bluntness. It's true. They say what needs to be said every time. You don't have to wonder where you stand with a Sagittarius. Aggression. These are fiery people. They are feisty and assertive. Defiance. These are the rockers and rebels of the zodiac. Do you really want to get into a mosh pit with a milquetoast do-gooder? Sagittarius do things their own way, keeping us all young at heart. Uncompromising. This my way or the highway attitude has its benefits. Sagittarius know what they want and are willing to go after it. Independence. At least they are not codependent like some of the other signs. They are great to date and be friends with, as they are not needy in general. Of course, everything is a matter of perception. All things that are undesirable can be turned around into something desirable. This is acceptance of the personality of the Sagittarius, as well as finding the perfection in Sagittarius traits. Now, what does A to Z list as some of the desirable characteristics of Sagittarius? Sincerity. It's true, Sagittarius are very honest, not beating around any bush. Expect transparency and truth here. Honesty. Again, they tell it like it is. This is a beautiful gift. Frankness. Being blunt is fun, often surprising, and cuts the mustard. Not much underlying tension with this sign. Did I mention that Sag is one of my favorite signs? Justice. They do like things to be fair, real, and morally right. Generosity. Sagittarius are some of the most giving people in the zodiac. They share their time, their stuff, and will probably give you a ride if you need one. Remember, they do love their cars. Prophecy. Many of these types are extremely forward-thinking, intuitive, and smart about people. You would be surprised what a Sagittarius knows. Dependability. Interesting. Come to think of it, Sagittarius are so happy and ready to rage that they rarely cancel plans. Buoyancy. Sagittarius will not bring you down. They will uplift you in every way. Fire is lifted upwards, and the mutability makes them even more inspiring. Hope. They love faith and joy, bringing promise of better things in even the most bleak of times. Charitable. If you want someone to give to the lesser man, call a Sagittarius. They are not materialistic, but instead love to help. Remember, if you don't like any characteristic of a Sag, turn them around to see the positives in that tendency. Some remedies for personality traits in general are acceptance. Let the Sagittarius be as they are. Surrender. Let them be free and do their thing. Remember, nothing is a detriment unless it is expected to be something else. Note, it is legit to travel and be polyamorous with a Sagittarius. Why? They are the most growth-oriented sign of the zodiac, and they are Jupiterian. They have the gift of great optimism. They like to be free. For more information on dealing with Jupiter energies, watch Jupiter, Problems and Remedies. Now, let's look at timing. When will we really see the energy of the Sagittarius come out in full form? During the sun cycle, the sun is in Sagittarius around Thanksgiving, when all the leaves turn golden. The dates of Sagittarius are November 23rd to December 22nd. Do you have any planets in Sagittarius? What house is Sagittarius on for you? What do you do every year around Thanksgiving? One homework for you would be to take an ephemeris and look at the next Sun transit through Sagittarius, Mercury transit through Sagittarius, Venus, Mars, etc. What are you doing this year with the Sun's transit through Sagittarius? Are you going on a trip anywhere, or do you have an in-town adventure on the books? It is great to plan to use Sagittarius energy since it is forward-moving and kinetic. We don't want to let it pass without writing some fun, raging, laughing, partying, or doing something new and different into our schedule. Lastly, watch the Sagittarius moon every month hit your chart. What do you like about yourself during these times? What don't you like? If you don't like something, what are some better outlets for the Sagittarius energy? Can you work with symbolic substitution to find appropriate contexts and activities for this part of you? For more information on symbolic substitution, one of the best remedies that exists, subscribe to this channel to find out early when that video comes out. I plan to make it soon. In conclusion, we will always want to channel our Sagittarius planets into useful, growth-oriented, exciting, and uplifting activities. We want to use this energy for its best reasons. And remember, you can always find a new adventure in anything and everything. No one rages like a Sagittarius. You are perfect just how you are. See you next time.